Hi, my name is Stacy King. I'm the Assistant Director for MPH Field Practice here at the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health. I'm part of the Office of Education, and I'm here today to talk about the MPH Practicum and field practice. For today, we're going to cover the overview of the MPH Practicum, talk about the timeline for the MPH 45 and MPH 65 student practicum, and go over some resources for finding your field practice. So first of all, what is the MPH Practicum? As you probably know, it is a degree requirement for MPH students, and its purpose is to integrate competencies and apply knowledge gained in the classroom to a real-world public health problem. But we hope that you will really think about what will make this experience valuable to you. So consider, for example, what are my personal professional goals while I'm here in this program? And how can I best use field practice to reach my goals? For example, if you are interested in working in health policy, will you use the practicum to learn more about a specific topic that interests you and gain more content expertise and go deeper? Or will you use the practicum to learn to try out a new skill that will make you more prepared and marketable for the kinds of jobs that you will be seeking? The practicum provides a unique opportunity to strengthen your resume and skill set, and sometimes the short-term setup makes it easier to take a risk or try something very different compared with a job. Think of this as a great opportunity to try something very new. Now that you know a bit more about how you can approach the practicum, let's talk through some of the nuts and bolts. You will all be enrolled in a practice course with your field of study. It will be called something like Practice and Culminating Experience in Health Policy or something similar. The time commitment for the MPH 45 students is 120 hours, and for the MPH 65 program, the time commitment is 300 hours. You'll all be working with a host organization and a preceptor. And in general, you'll be applying classroom skills and building competencies in a real-world setting. The project needs to be specific and well-defined. This is very important. It has to have a realistic scope and be of significance to the host organization. It needs to advance their mission. The schedule can be worked out mutually between you and the preceptor. Most students do their practicum individually, but you can also do your practicum as part of a team, and 2 or 3 students makes a nice size for a team. You'll be drafting up a learning agreement, which is approved by the preceptor and your practice course faculty, and that basically outlines the scope, the deliverables, the time frame, and the work plan. And then finally, you'll have deliverables to the host organization and deliverables to the school, like a poster, presentation, or paper. So where do students do their practicum? You might be wondering where we all go. Every year, the practice office conducts a survey of MPH students, and this data is taken from the 2016 graduates. And you can see here that students went to a variety of places. 40% of these students did a practicum with an organization that they identified as an academic or research organization. 26% were with a hospital, 9% worked with an NGO, 5% worked in government at the federal, state, or local level, 4% specifically said they worked at a community health center, and 3% did their practicum with a community-based organization. 13% were in the other category, and that includes private sector and startups, and we're seeing a lot more interest in these areas. Students mostly do their practicum in the greater Boston area, which has a lot of wonderful places to do your practicum, but some students also choose to do their practicum elsewhere in the United States and also internationally. In terms of the kind of work that a practicum involves, there is a wide range, and you'll see from the same survey there are many different kinds of work that students engage in. I would note that literature review tops the list, but literature review on its own does not make up a practicum. So students in this case were checking off multiple types of work that they were doing, and most of them did include a literature review as part of their practicum. Final practicum products also run the gamut, but this gives an example of the kinds of things that students would be producing, like a research paper, oral presentation, conference abstracts, memos, issue briefs, position papers, tools and resources, and so on. This is an example of a poster presentation that took place in the school last year. So some of the final deliverables for the practicum take place within the school as part of your field of study practice course. This is a health policy class that was taking place. So now that we've talked a little bit about the overview of practicum, let's talk through the timeline so you get more familiar with that. It's the same whether you are in the MPH 45 or the MPH 65, but of course the timeline will be a little bit different. So basically, you're going to start out seeking your practicum placement, finalizing the scope with your preceptor, talking about it with your practice course instructor, and then drafting up your learning agreement. And that will show the scope and the deliverables and work plan and so on. Then there will be a period of time where you're out in the field conducting your practicum. And then towards the end of your program, you'll be wrapping up your practicum, providing your host organization with the deliverables, and completing your practice course requirements. So let's talk about the timeline for seeking your practicum placement. This is often a mystery to students, and we want to get you off to a strong start. So there's a little bit of variation in this time frame that you see, depending on the field of study, but in general, I think this is something that you can work with. So for the MPH 45 students, between August and October, you'll be looking for your practicum placement and finalizing the scope. So what that really looks like is in August and September, you are actively looking for your placement. Hopefully you've identified your preceptor by the end of September or early October, and that leaves you with October to work out the details of your scope before you get going on your actual project in November or later. Let's move on to finding your practicum. This is something that a lot of students ask about, and I hope we'll have some answers for you today. We have some online resources and also people resources, so I hope you'll find something in here that's useful to you. So first of all, your practice course faculty is really your point person or your point people for finding your practicum. Make sure you are consulting with them, and also staff within your department may have ideas for your practicum. So there are plenty of resources within your department that you should take advantage of. As I mentioned at the beginning, I'm part of the MPH practice office. I work closely with Michael McCormick, who's the director of practice, Kathy So, who's the leadership and practice administrator, Bill Bean, who is an instructor and an advisor. And together we really work closely with students to help them find something. Also, current students are a fantastic resource for you. Many students come here with terrific contacts, and I would encourage you to talk to other students and see if you can make some good connections. Alumni are a wonderful resource as well. There is an alumni database, which is a wonderful thing to get familiar with, not just for your time here, but for after you leave as well. Many of our preceptors are actually alumni, and alumni make fantastic preceptors because they know exactly what you're going through. So using the alumni database makes a terrific starting place. Also, existing preceptors and practitioners who you know in the field are great point people to look for your practicum. Most students find their own practicum through their own contacts and their own research, and I'll show you a little bit more about that. And then we also have some existing opportunities as well. So I'm going to move now to showing you some of our online resources so that you can get familiar with those. All right, so I've taken you to the field practice website, and there's a lot in this site. And I'm not going to go through it all, but I'm just going to show you a couple of sections that I think you should spend some time on before you get going. So the best way to find this site, by the way, is if you're in the Harvard Chan website, just type Practicum into the search field, and you'll come up with the best way to find this website. So this here is the section for MPH students, You will be enrolled in a practice and culminating experience course, as I mentioned. And this section here about the practicum itself is where you might want to take a look. So the practicum guidelines are all here and fairly well detailed. Your field of study might have some additional practicum guidelines, so just be mindful of that. These are more general guidelines that work across the MPH program. The MPH practicum advising talks about a couple of things. One is faculty that I mentioned before. Your faculty for your practice course is really your point person, but the MPH practice team, which I'm a part of, is available to meet with you as well if you would like to talk about possible directions or you have some questions. We have a way to make appointments through Career Connect, and so that information is available here. And then finally, there are some terrific short videos that were created by Lori Pascal several years ago. Lori Pascal is faculty in the Health Policy and Management Department and also an alumnus of the school. And they're very short, they're about 2 minutes each, and they really talk you through a lot of the aspects of finding a practicum and getting started, and I think they're really great. So if you have just a couple minutes and you want to get some quick advice, I would recommend them. This section here, identifying potential practicum projects, has several resources that I think you'll want to take advantage of. Some general information about navigating the practicum application process, which can sometimes be a little mysterious. Contacting potential preceptors. This is something that many students are anxious about, and we have in this section an actual sample email to a potential preceptor. And I would encourage you to take a look at it. Of course, you should use whatever form you're comfortable with, but some students don't have as much experience with professional communications, and it's really important that all of your communications are very professional and something that you're also comfortable with. The section that is probably the most popular in the site overall is prior practice sites and projects. And this is where students can see practice sites and project titles from the last several years. So for example, you can click on 2017 in Global Health and see all of the practice organizations, the type of organization that it was, where they did their practicum, and the project title. So it's really a great place to start if you are wondering what on earth you're going to do. Often what happens is people take a look at these and they say, oh, that's the kind of project that students do. Oh, now I understand the kind of thing that I should be looking for. And also, just so you know, we always send this to potential preceptors as well. So a preceptor that we might talk with at a host organization says, what kind of projects do students do? And we send them this list, and it gives them a much better idea of what our students are capable of, what they're interested in, and that kind of thing. So I definitely recommend you spend some time on these pages. And also, don't just stick with your own field of study. If you are in health policy, of course, there's several years of examples here, but you might also want to check out what health management students did, or health and social behavior students did, or quantitative methods. There's actually quite a bit of overlap in the kind of content that students seek out for their practicum. Also, I would just note that there is 1 year of recent project abstracts that gets more into the details of each project. So that'll give you a nice overview of the kinds of work that people are doing. There's more information here about learning agreements, and the student FAQ section I think is a really important place for you to look. There's a lot of random questions in there, but I imagine that some of them will be questions that you have. So I recommend that you check that out. Down here is the Career Connect student login, and so next I'm going to show you Career Connect and what a search might look like, and then we will wrap it up. All right, so where we are now is Career Connect, and you might have already tried out Career Connect and logged in, but if you haven't, I would encourage you to do that before you arrive at the school. As you'll see over on the right, there's a section called Practice and Field Immersion, and this is where you can search for practicum projects. You'll see a list of practicum projects that are currently live. And what happens with these is our office reaches out to potential host sites throughout the year. We keep in touch with them, and they will post a project, and they're really hoping to get a student. So these are ready to go. Preceptors are hoping that somebody will apply, and so I would definitely check out the listing that's here. Most of the listings will actually come in late August and early September. That's when the preceptors really start posting. So here is what it would look like. You'll see a description of the project. Some of the activities that it might include. You'll see information about deliverables, qualifications, where it is, and what they need. Sometimes there's contact information, and sometimes there's not. If you have any questions, you're welcome to reach out to us, and we, of course, have all the information about each of these postings. So in this case, the preceptor did post their contact information. And you would apply directly through Career Connect. If you do apply through Career Connect, we ask that you apply to no more than 3 at a time. Really choose projects that you really are interested in. Don't apply to 20 because other students are applying to these too. So we don't want to overload preceptors with applications that aren't something that a student's really interested in. Really focus in on the kind of thing that you want to do. But they are looking forward to receiving your applications. So we've reviewed all the resources for practice that we have online and some of the in-person resources as well. I didn't show you the host organization web pages, but you're welcome to look at those, and you should share them with a potential preceptor, and you're welcome to send a potential preceptor our way to talk with us if they have any questions directly. One thing that's not on this page here is we also host a practice open house in September for MPH 45 students. It's a great event. We get a lot of preceptors coming in to table, and it's actually a lot of fun. You can kind of get into the swing of looking for practicum in a friendly setting, and it's really quick, and it's a lot of fun. We are also hoping to organize one in the winter for MPH 65 students, so that will be something new. Just as a reminder, you're welcome to get in touch with us at any time at the following email address, mph-practice@hsph.harvard.edu. Thank you for joining this session about the MPH field practice and required practicum. I hope it was helpful to you, and I look forward to working with you in the future.